Dorothee from FUGA, working from the UK office, and before that I've worked at other aggregators or a record label and also on the DSP side of the business, so hopefully I can give you some insight here on digital distribution. So first I would go to basics, and why is it important to build the right digital team, digital distribution team. And if we're talking about digital distribution, we're going to have to get our hands dirty in some sort of techie stuff. And the main techie stuff is obviously the supply chain. So when you think about it from the outside, and if you're not currently in the industry, you might think that a supply chain is a fairly straightforward concept. You're a content owner. You want to get your content to the DSPs via some sort of pipes and potentially some added service around it, and that should be taking it from A to B, job done. It turns out it's a little bit more complex than that, and the reason for it is because it's not about building a pipe, but it's about establishing an XML connection with as many DSPs as you have agreement with as many DSPs as you work with. And the thing is that some of these DSPs might have their own proprietary systems, like Apple is famous for, and others might be on other systems. And there is a group in the industry trying to get around one format to make things easier, which is the DDEX format. But unfortunately, while it does make things easier, all the players are not necessarily on the same DDEX specs at the same time, and also they might not implement new features on the same time. So basically the supply chain is a beast that's constantly changing and that constantly needs development, and so it's not really something that you can improvise yourself into. Another reason why making sure you have built the right digital distribution team is because digital is now over 50% of the revenue worldwide. And for some labels, it's even much higher and closer to 100%, especially in the Nordic regions. And if you've seen Merck's presentation earlier or interview, and you believe like him that the brightest days of the music industry are ahead, thanks to streaming, then it's important to get things right now. It's also important to have the right kind of talent in your company, and especially in the legal department or business affairs, because of the complexity of business models. They're going to have to negotiate deals that are pretty straightforward, from a la carte downloads all the way to subscription streaming, user-generated content, and lots of variations. And mostly, as a record label or content owner, you probably want to make sure you have time for the most creative stuff. So if you've got your digital distribution in a nice and efficient way, then you will have time for that. How should you go about it? So you should probably know your strength. When we're talking about your digital distribution team, it actually goes further beyond than your dedicated digital team. It will impact lots of areas of your business. So it's about looking at those core business areas and seeing where your strengths are, whether you think you can have the necessary resources, or if that makes sense to outsource that bit. So we talked earlier about supply chain. And the fact that it's not really something you can improvise yourself in. So it's about looking at, do you have the tech resources in-house to try and tackle that? It's also about the size of your catalog. Do you have a small catalog that maybe can be managed manually, especially these days? If you work with any partner, they will have some very easy user-friendly web interface where you can just go and manually manage content. But if you have a bigger catalog, then that's not going to be scalable. So you will need some sort of automated system that you build or that you outsource, but it's about having a clear picture of what your needs are and, again, where your strength is. In the kind of similar area, there's metadata management and basically your catalog. How good are you at storing your metadata? Do you need to go into a very far-away archive for your back catalog and you have lots of holes, or have you been pretty good at keeping this data in good shape? Yes, and how can you continue that? This probably should be your strength because it's pretty core to your business, but also it's probably something that you will struggle to outsource because that's not really something a partner can do instead of you. So that's probably a key area. The other one is the legal department. So as I said before, they're going to need to be able to license all those DSPs. And the question here is, you know, what kind of bandwidth do they have? Are they going to be able to manage, you know, as many discussions as there are DSPs, and that can be like 50 plus, 100 plus around the world? Or is it going to be easier for them to, you know, look for things like Merlin, or again, an aggregator? It's all about the bandwidth. And also, do you think you have the clout to actually manage terms that you think will be in your favor? Retail marketing, it's the same ideas. It's about scale and clout. Do you think your retail marketing team has got the scale to manage those relationships with the DSPs around the world? And do you think you can get your catalog heard and noticed the way it should be? Finance, the finance team will obviously also be affected in a similar way, as they'll have to process reports. So it's the same thing. You know, it's already complex to do the second half of the journey, whereby you get your report and then you do the calculation to pay back your artists. But do you also have to overload yourself with lots of different reports, or do you need an aggregated report every month that will have the data from all of the DSPs? And then analytics, it's kind of similar to finance, but I guess it's one step after that. Once you have all of the sales data, are you going to be able to make sense of it and use it to your advantage? So once you've checked which areas you can keep in-house and which one would be good candidates to outsource to, you should probably check which partner you should go for. And a few keywords here are the ones on the screen. So probably you should make sure you have as much freedom as possible. I think all the players out there have moved away from lengthy contract or exclusivity contract. And unless there's a good reason for you to enter in those deals, which might be, you know, you should make sure it's intentional. Control is also important. Technology allows you to have the most granular level of control on your catalog. So yeah, maybe just make sure that you get what you need for your organization. Having shorter lines of communication and of action is probably key here. So you want to be able to you know, press a button and action your catalog the way you want, not have to wait, you know, for someone to pick up an email or for an office to be open or things like that. That's absolutely not necessary. Transparency. So you probably want both transparency on sales and on activity. You want to make sure that you're going to be able to have the data that allows you to take the right decisions for your business. And then independence. Well, support first. So you want to make sure that you obviously get the right amount of support from your partner, whether it be on an operational level day-to-day or also on a marketing level. Again, there's a difference between having your content available in a store and getting the featuring that you should be getting. And then independence. There's lots of trends in the market about consolidation, companies buying each other. So you might start with a partner because they're independent, and then 2-3 years down the line, they might not be independent anymore. So maybe this is not an issue for you. It doesn't have to be. Maybe it is, but again, it's about knowing what fits you as an organization. Value added. So when you talk about your digital distribution setup and how your team should be internally and externally, and you come to picking a partner, you probably want to look also beyond that. And whichever partner you choose originally for your digital distribution, maybe it's good to look at what other services they can offer, so that when you grow, you can grow with the partner if that was a good fit originally. And most of the aggregators on the market will have some additional services. It's actually kind of a differentiation points for some services. So, you know, things that are pretty standard are things like neighboring right collection, sync services, further YouTube services, and label services. So it might be a good idea to just you know, have the longer term picture in mind and again see what fits you best. So yeah, so in the end, it's all about knowing the option, and I think you know, like I talk to labels on a daily basis about what their option can be and what they should be, and sometimes it's surprising that. It's not about fitting in one model. There's not just one. There's several, and you shouldn't feel restricted. You should really go with what's right. So the first scenario is you want to do it all yourself, and that's totally possible. There are labels who do that, and that's fine. It's just about being aware of what you're getting into. So if we look again at those various business areas and various departments of your organization and how they're going to be impacted, in this case, obviously, if you do it all yourself, everything's going to be impacted. So it's about gearing up properly and being ready for it. If you feel that this is a little bit too heavy, but you still want to keep as much control as possible on pretty much everything, then the obvious candidate to outsource is the technology aspect of it, because probably that's not going to be your core expertise. As I said in the beginning, it's quite an intensive process in terms of costs and staff. And yes, there are partners who can do that for you. So yeah, that's one possibility. If you want to work with an aggregator, then that will enable you to have a more lean team, and maybe again the long-term view is still to be able to focus more on the creative part of the business. So typically an aggregator will take care of the commercial relationship with the DSP, the retail marketing relationship with the DSP. They will provide you with some sort of supply chain, and as I said earlier, they all have some great interface to help with that. But also the difference between working with an aggregator and working like the slide before with a simple technical provider is that on top of that, you will also get aggregated monthly sales reports, so that can be a bit less intensive on your workload. And the things that in any of those three scenarios will probably always remain in your hands are things like metadata management. Again, your catalog is your company, and no one will know it better than you do. And then you'll probably also want to always keep some resources for analytics. There's lots of tools that are out there, either within the aggregators or outside the aggregators, like companies like EI or Revelator or others. But you can have whatever powerful tool that there is in the market, and that are very helpful. But you will still need to be able to draw your own conclusion and analyze the analytics to make them speak for your company. So there you go. That was, I hope, a few helpful pointers, and thank you for listening.